So, ladies and gents, The Crow. The Crow. We've got the first look of The Crow images. Now, for those that were lucky enough to watch the video which I released, and then also they were lucky enough to attend the Hcast where I covered it as well, we have, I had my leaks basically. So these images confirm the leaks from stuff which had never been revealed until we get this images, but I had revealed it. So it's nice to get that confirmed. But we've got the first look images. I think they'll be quite divisive, but we do have some comments from the director as well.
No, I don't think they're divisive at all, Nate. I think everybody unanimously agrees that they look like shit.
Well, yeah, okay. I was trying to be, a little bit more uniform across it, just in case someone liked it.
I'm waiting to find that person who said that looks cool.
Well, look, yeah. I mean, look. Ultimately, it doesn't look great, but you'll remember what I said, Tom. Doesn't this go exactly in line with what I had said?
Yes, junkies getting killed by their dealer and all that crap. Yeah, I'm not going to go into more than that, but yeah.
Yeah, enough. Essentially. So, I mean, look, the most controversial image is this one. So this is him as the.
Oh my god!
Look.
Oh, terrible.
Right. Whatever we think about the Crow, right? Of this Crow or whatever, I've got to say, and I think Andre will back me up on this, and I'm sure others will as well. There is no doubt in my mind that Bill Skarsgård will put in actually a very, very good performance. I think Bill Skarsgård will be good. I think, unfortunately, no matter how good people are in this movie, it will be overshadowed by the fact that it is a remake of The Crow. I think we can all agree on that.
I agree completely. I think that people are going to, like, if I had to make a prediction right now, I think people are going to say that's a shit movie, but Skarsgård is great in it. Because there's only one Brandon Lee. But then you have, but you also only had one Pennywise. And yet he blew everyone away as his Pennywise, didn't he? No matter what you feel about it, people are like, okay, this is a very different take, but that was intriguing.
Disagree. Hate his Pennywise.
Yeah, fine. So you hate his Pennywise, but many others don't. Know that you hate it, but many others don't. And I think it's going to be the same thing here. Many people will never, ever accept anyone but Brandon Lee. But now you have a ton of people who have never seen The Crow with Brandon Lee, who have no attachment to it whatsoever. This is going to be their first meeting with the character, and they're going to accept this guy as the Crow. This will be their Crow. Who knows if they care anything about the movie, but I do not doubt for a second that they'll find his performance compelling.
Yes. So these are the images. They released 3 images. Obviously, him and FKA Twigs. I've always got an issue with singers turned actors. I hate it massively. And then here's another one, and then this is him full Crow. So let's just get to some of the comments from the director before I get everyone's thoughts. So he said this, what drew me to this was the opportunity to make a dark romance, something that dealt with loss, grief, and the ethereal veil between life and death, and reaching through that. It says, look, I grew up listening to Joy Division and The Cure, and this movie is a bit like a Cure song, The Beauty of Melancholy. Okay, fine. What else? Well, obviously, it was a terrible tragedy, so addressing what happened with Brandon. And it's definitely something that we've always had in mind through the making of the film. Brandon was an original voice, and I think he will always be synonymous with The Crow. And I hope he's proud of what we've done and how we've brought the story back again. His soul is very much alive in this film. There's a real fragility and beauty to this version of The Crow, and I think Bill feels like he is a successor to that. And that was about it from the sort of creative aspect. They did make a comment about never did test screenings with Bill Skarsgård and Twigs. I had them for dinner when they first arrived in Prague, and I was a bit like a nervous parent looking to see if there were any sparks, because you don't know. And they were great. They hung out and were straight into it. So look, I mean, there's not much else to it, really. We do have You know, I think there was there another comment about about him being the Crow specifically in that image. So the look in the second half of the film, which is this again, which relates back to my leaks. Sanders says that his inspiration, was less cribbed from Obar's graphic novel or Lee's previous incarnation than from his own life. I think the beauty of Bill is that he has a disturbing beauty, and as he transforms through his loss, he becomes this thing that even he can't control. It's that famous line, whoever fights monsters must be careful they don't become one. That look was me in the 90s when we were squat raving in London. Like Post Malone and Lil Peep, I hope people who are 19 today look at him and go, that guy is us. That image captures the beginning of his transformation into the Crow. It's the moment we realize bad things are coming. So some sort of creative elements there, some elements of casting, scripting. What do we think? I'll go to you, Andre, first, I think.
Well, I kind of I don't really have any thoughts. I don't think that because of course here they don't really say too much other than that we have moved on from Brandon Lee, so should you. Of course, they say it in a much nicer way, but that's kind of like what they're saying, that this is a different Crow, time to move on. And beyond that, I don't know how popular The Crow is with modern audiences. What kind of by modern audiences, I basically mean people who weren't there and who haven't seen the original Crow, which is a cult movie, but that means that not too many in the general audience have seen it. I don't know how attached they are to it, so it's going to kind of like have to sell itself as a new property, a remake of this thing that you may have heard about in passing, but that you may not have seen. I don't know that the movie itself is going to win anyone over, but I do believe that many might be intrigued by Skarsgård's performance. But again, when that performance is in a movie that isn't going to set anything on fire or ablaze or what have you, then I think it's ultimately just going to come and go and be relatively quickly forgotten, including his performance, however intriguing it may be.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think this will remotely. I mean, from the leaks anyway that I had, like it doesn't hold it can't be compared to the original. It just can't.
Well,
so I agree.
For somebody who's watched this movie, I don't know, many dozens of times, I think it's gonna be difficult for me to separate the.
Yeah, I don't know this imaginary audience that Andre's talking about that doesn't love this movie and hasn't seen it. Like every emo kid that's ever been born from now till 1980 has seen this movie 100 times over and dressed as the Crow for Halloween.
Yeah, and that's fine, but I'm talking about the ones that go to see movies but who aren't emo kids. That's
yeah, well, my point is, there's no, like, less people are going to be even interested in this than that Hellboy remake.
Yes, I agree. That's exactly my point.
For the very reason that The Crow has a huge fan base here in the U.S. Like, people, they're not going to accept this.
No.
This is going to be one of the lowest grossing films of the year. And I'm sorry, I don't know what you see of Bill Skarsgård. I have not really liked him in anything I've seen him in. He is the worst Pennywise ever. Whoever friggin' came up with the idea to make him this ugly, grody thing from beginning to end was stupid. Even Tim Curry understood. First of all, you got to be funny and goofy and look cute for the kids to rein them in. Then when they rein them in, that's when you scare the crap out of them. He's scary from the start. He doesn't even understand the character, neither did Andy Muschietti, but that's neither here nor there, because it sounds like this guy doesn't understand the Crow at all. I mean, I'm sorry. This is going to be received about as well as a wet fart at the end of the day. Yeah. I've seen nobody, not one person say, oh, that looks amazing. Everybody's comparing it to Jared Leto Joker, which is a horrible thing.
Did you? Why don't you like Pennywise the Clown?
Because he's horrible. It's not. That makes no sense. He should not look like that. He should not look like a crusty, grody looking thing. That's not what Pennywise looks like. He looks like that when he turns. But why would Georgie go anywhere near him?
But because he didn't look like that straight away, Tom. I
He
think you
did
need to
too.
watch
He had
the
all this
film
crusty
again.
crap all over his head, and he's all, "Hey kid, you want to come down here?" It's like that's not Pennywise. That's afterwards. Pennywise, when Tim Curry's Pennywise, it makes sense because he's like, "Come on, kid. There's popcorn, there's balloons and shit down here." He looks like a normal bozo clown. He don't look like he stepped out of a freaking crack house.
Well, look, I think you've got some valid points with the Crow. Pennywise, unfortunately, though, you are definitely in the minority.
Well, then
I think a
I
lot
don't know
of
about
people
that because a
really.
lot of people agree
Let
with
me
me on
finish.
that one.
I think a lot of people will disagree that. I think a lot of people will agree with me. He made a great Pennywise. I think he made that film. I think the fact he was able to do so much with his face, just on an emoting thing, was incredible. Because he did all of those facial expressions, his eyes as well, especially. That was all him. And I think a lot of people will agree that actually he was great as Pennywise. But I think you've got some valid points with the Crow. I just want to bring it back.
I'm waiting for the one person in the chat who agrees with you.
Agree with me on what? I didn't say he's better than Tim Curry, but you made out he wasn't a good Pennywise.
Okay, you got
He is
one. Zachary agrees with you. Okay.
I don't need the chat to agree with me. I'm not. This isn't what this is. I don't need them to agree with me. This isn't. I'm just trying to say a lot of people, whether it's the chat or not, a lot of people will say he made
Read
a
the
very
book.
good.
That's all I'm going to say is read the book.
I don't need to.
Well, that's where my point comes from. That's not what Pennywise is like.
That's like saying to you, read the book from The Crow. Then
I did.
Okay.
I've got the special
Brandon
collector's
Lee's
novel.
Crow wasn't like The Crow, the graphic novel either.
Closer than what this is going to be.
But how can you say that? You can say, but we don't know.
Because from what you've told me already, none of the things that you said that are in the that none of that is part of the original story. They weren't a bunch of junkies who got killed by their dealer. The story that's in the movie is pretty close to what's in the comic book. The only thing they changed was they upped some of the characters, and he died. The end is a little different. Otherwise, it's not that much different.
No, they leave out Shelley's presence.
So she's still there in visions and stuff.
Even so, that's important. That's important. I know, whatever. Nick, Tom, what do you think then about this? Keep going with you.
Well, is anybody else asking the question why all the modern day audience bad guys have to look like Post Malone, Joker, Batman, and then this version of the Crow? It's like Post Malone copies. I don't really understand it, but I agree with Tom. I think this is going to completely flop. But there's
no one on the panel thinks this is going to be.
Yeah.
I don't think this is going to be successful.
No,
absolutely not.
Yeah, definitely not. But I just don't see a whole lot of people turning out for this. And to Andre's point, I think that the few people out there, especially here in the States, that never saw the original or have no connection to the original, might go out and maybe enjoy this. But that audience is going to be so small.
I agree completely. Yeah, I mean, Tom said this is going to flop even worse than the Hellboy remake. I think that's a fair point. I think that's an apt comparison right there.
Yeah,
but here's the difference: Hellboy remake cost a reasonable amount of money. I doubt this cost much at all.
Yeah, I don't think that. What was the budget? Like 120 million, or
there's another difference as well. At least I thought the Hellboy remake was kind of cool. I kind of prefer it to some of the original ones. I don't think that anyone is going to prefer this movie to the original one, provided they've seen them both.
Yeah, I mean, to address your point, like why
that 50 million?
Well, just to address why sort of evil villains or whatever heroes, etc., are so sort of slight and thin, because one, there's not a lot of quite large good actors out there at the moment. There just isn't. I'm sure you could find them, obviously. I'm sure you could, but mainstream ones, there just isn't really. they needed to attach someone that was kind of a name on it, and then it's who do you get, who's there, and also who would look good. I mean, Brandon Lee wasn't exactly a big dude either, so I wouldn't massively hold it against Skarsgård for being slight frame. But also, that's just society as a whole at the moment, isn't it? That masculinity is derided, so any sort of forms of masculinity being larger and things like that are derided. Going to be slighter frame instead, with the tattoos. I don't know why that seems to be the thing at the moment. It's quite an odd one. But tattoos have been quite large for villains for quite some time as well, I guess. But yeah, overall, why there seems to be a trend, I think it's societal as well as Hollywood's creative bankruptcy. I'm sure if there was one movie where the villain was huge, jacked, and I don't know, well spoken, for instance, it would start a trend of like multiple other movies with exactly the same thing, because that's Hollywood. They just keep copying, don't they? It's just what they do.
Yeah, they probably should not have even spent the money to even make this movie. The original Crow is one of those movies. It needs to stand on its own. We don't need any of even the sequels to the movie were terrible. But
and I see what he's doing here. He's trying to bait in fans by mentioning like The Cure and stuff, because that's another thing we barely even talked about was how big the soundtrack was here.
Yeah, soundtrack was very big. I mean, it was, in terms of the original, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we said it before when we discussed this. The soundtrack is a
well, and that's why he dropped The Cure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not necessarily to say that they'll include stuff like that in this one.
No, but that's why he did it.
Definitely a big part. Definitely a big part. Culture, let's hear from you now, mate.
I'm not interested in this film. I was a young person. I enjoyed watching this dozens and dozens of times when it was, an actor that I thought was basically the role. I didn't know how you could possibly replace him. There's only one Eric Draven, as far as I'm concerned.
This would be like remaking Enter the Dragon.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, again,
because this is his Enter the Dragon, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you can even argue at some points it's probably more popular now than Bruce Lee's Enter the Dragon in America, anyway.
Yeah, it's just disappointing. And while I will see the film, I'm already it's already starting with a disadvantage because I have in my mind,
made it.
This iconic performance. So
they never ever should have made it. We do have some super chats actually from people talking about this. So William Fleming super chatted $3 via Streamlabs. Says he looks like Machine Gun Kelly and Jared Leto's butt baby.
Yes,
I'm gonna blast some 9 Inch Nails.
Yeah,
he does. That's an apt comparison right there.
Yeah, it is. Terry tipped $1 again via Streamlabs and says, personally, I think that this director's version of The Crow will fall flat on its ass, leaving his biggest hands on hit being Kristen Stewart's ass. I didn't understand the last bit, but yes, I think this will fall flat on its butt. Definitely. I don't think, and no one's making the argument that this will be particularly good. And the statement of they never should have made it, I think, is absolutely.
I'm mainly just giving these guys shit.
Hey,
I was just mainly giving you and Andre shit about this because, like, look at culture. This has become the meme, right? Like,
I know. I stand by this. He will put in a good performance. I bet you his performance will be good. I stand by that. It'll be a great performance from Skarsgård because he is a great actor, but it'll be overshadowed by the fact that it's a great performance in a film that never should have been made.
So I also agree. Yeah, I agree with you with that completely. It's going to be an intriguing performance. It's not going to be the Crow that you love, and it's not going to be praised by the audience. His performance will, but the movie won't because it's the wrong movie.
Yeah.
So his talents would have been far better suited elsewhere than this. I agree that this is a movie they've been trying to make for 20 years. and they
Long
still
time.
haven't given up. So it obviously has no momentum. It always falls apart from some reason. And is the fan demand there? No, it isn't. So why are they keep pursuing this? Why do they want to lose all this money?
I mean, it must be, and this will be the last thing I say on it before we shuffle on. It must be to keep the rights to James O'Barr's graphic novel. It must be something to do with that. It has to be.
Well, they must have, surely they must have lost those a long time ago. And here's the thing also. If they, fine, so you lose them, you know what happened then? You just relicense them because they're going to be on the market. Who the hell else is going to pick them up?
Yeah, but
It's not like there's a rife competition to make a Crow movie or anything.
But these
Paramount
studios,
owns the other ones, but
they want to keep on the IP. They want to keep a hold of it.
see, that's what I'm thinking. Is Lionsgate got a hold of this through their acquisition of Miramax Dimension years ago, and then they held on to the rights when they sold everything else to Paramount, because Paramount owns the rights to the movies now. They're releasing the 4K in a few months here.
And this is the last bite of the apple, is probably what it is, because the author, the originator of the character, can reclaim their rights in 5 years.
Yeah, it'll be the 35-year mark.
Yeah, so that's probably why, quite frankly.
Yeah,
it's a rights retainer, kind of like the Hellboy movie was. And I mean, and some I didn't get to say earlier, but I really feel strongly about is I feel like it's a huge insult to make the Crow a junkie and all that kind of business. I mean, I don't remember that ever being a part of the original character. In fact, in the original movie, I don't think this is in the comic from memory, but in the movie, he even takes Sarah's mother and, bleeds out the heroin from her.
Yeah.
Remember, so it has a very anti-drug message in that movie. So to me, it's almost like an insult to it to do that to the character. That's what bothers me more than anything. Because I mean, I've seen the endless sequels. So, I mean, it's not like the original movie hasn't been bastardized already. It's just, to me, it almost feels like you're going out of your way to make the character I don't know, it feels like you're crapping on the character a bit to me.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, anyway, there we go. We will shuffle on a little bit now. We had